Hello, welcome to day 21 in creating this PHP Web Framework. This is, I think it's part 4 in the documentation side. So, warning for anyone that's watching this, I am doing documentation now. This is gonna take a few videos. Have been doing it for the past 2 or 3 videos, and it might be a bit boring. Like I said, not really gonna be doing much coding. It's mainly just documentation, maybe fixing code, and hopefully we'll be fixing code. If code is broken, obviously, hopefully code isn't broken, but if it is, we'll be fixing it. And yeah, just getting it properly documented before we move on, because the framework's at a point where it's ready to use in a wide variety of websites. It's got a lot of functionality in there. I want to use it myself on a lot of projects, but because the framework is pretty big, for me it's not too much of a hassle for me to go through the code and just figure out how it would, like, certain bits of work that I did quite a while ago. But for somebody who's never used the framework before, one, I didn't document the entire process, like the initial part of it. One, it was based off some of like code from PHP Academy, so obviously that side I didn't document at all. Like when I was following tutorials from that to sort of create the foundation. There's a bit after that that I didn't really document, but even you don't want to be watching 20, 30, 40, 50 essentially 1 hour plus vlogs just to figure out how the framework works. And again, I'm not necessarily explaining how it works, even though I'm talking about it and you'll get a lot of information from it. It is more just the process that I'm going through to implement the framework. So documenting it at the moment. There's a warning in the title saying it might be boring, so just letting you know now that this is documentation. So let's just get on with it. So definitely recording. And okay, so we was in the core folder. We just doing that. We had done all the config stuff. We just had these 4 sections left. So if we go to files to include, this is like a very simple one. These 4 sections shouldn't take long at all to explain. So let's just edit the page. I'm definitely going to get these done today, no matter what. And in here, I'm going to do files to include. So this essentially is this file allows you to include any JavaScript and CSS files you have created yourself and added to public/JS and public/CSS respectively. Looks okay. Okay, so I'm just going to give an example. Okay, I'm going to switch it around then. So it says JavaScript after, because I've got CSS first, and that would match alphabetical order as well. So for this, has anybody seen the Faraday Future announcement of their FF91 car? Looks nice, and some of the stuff on there is pretty impressive. The EV and hopefully FCV scene will be really popping over the next decade. Over the next couple of years, it's going to be popping, but over the next decade definitely, because you'll be seeing cars or vehicles that you'll be seeing consumers that don't have deep pockets accessing these vehicles in one way or another. But realistically, these vehicles are just a midpoint till we get self-driving or I don't want to say driving, because driving suggests car, but just sort of autonomous vehicles. Because again, I think it's gonna go less. It's going to be less about cars, more just essentially containers or pods. Obviously, they'll look good. They won't sound, look as bad as they sound a pod or a container, but that's what they'll be. And you'll essentially have more of a taxi-based system than having your own vehicle. That's what I believe is going to happen in the future. Again, that's going to be more than 2 or 3 years, because one, the technology isn't quite there yet. The autonomous technology that some of the companies are developing is good, but it's not there yet, and also the public isn't there yet as well. That's one of the biggest things. Even when the technology is there, the consumers are going to take a little while for them to jump on board, especially something they don't have control over, even though it's inevitably going to be better. But let's just get back to this. Check it out, FF91 car from Faraday Future, and add it to public. Okay, so to do code, it was these 3 lines, and I want to copy all of this. So to do this, we'll just do a horizontal rule. This code includes a file onto all of the sites pages, a CSS file onto all of the sites pages called index.css. There is no need, do not put the .css extension S. I'm actually going to bold that, and I think bold was like 2 asterisks around it. Do not put the .css extension. It is automatically added. It is automatically added. The number 1 refers, I believe that refers to the version number. Refers to the version number, increasing, I'll say increasing / changing this to, this will force browsers to reload the file, helping prevent caching problems. Example, add in an extra CSS file example, and for this I would just put 3 stars, which will be H3, and I'll just put, if I wanted to include a file called awesome.css and say hello world.css, the above code will now look like this. So the 3 little thingies for code, get this, whack it here, get this, put a comma here, hello world.css with a version number of 23. The above code will now look like this, just so you can see, you know, the thingy changing the version number. This will be hello world. That's it. I'm just going to save this, see what it's looking like. If it's all good, I will add the CSS one. Okay, that messed up for some reason. Is it hashes? Let me edit the page. Might be hashes for titles. Save the page. And files to include. This file allows you to include any CSS and JavaScript files you have created yourself and add it to the public CSS and public JS respectively. This code includes a CSS file onto all of the site pages. Actually, I'm going to change that to site pages / views. All of the, I'm going to say pages actually, all of the pages / views. Called index.css. Do not put the .cs extension, it is automatically added. The number, I'm going to put actually 1. And I'm going to bold it. The number 1. Refers to the version number. Increasing changing this will force browsers to reload the file, helping prevent caching problems. Adding an extra CSS file example. If I wanted to include a file called hello.css with version number 23, the above code will now look like this. All good, and I can essentially copy and paste that for the JavaScript side and just change a few things. So if I just copy and paste all of this, what I'm actually going to do is copy that, copy it into Sublime, copy that, and now this needs to change to the JS equivalents. This includes a JavaScript file onto all the pages, views, called index.js. Do not put the .js extension, it is added automatically. That's fine. Adding an extra JavaScript file. Example, hello world.js with a version number of, I'm going to say 45. I'm going to say 66, like order 66. And I'll replace this with 66 as well, like referring to order 66. And replace the variable name here. Apart from that, should all be good, and you should just be able to copy and paste it. But I do need to replace this. So if I save, so I want to edit something. I want to put some more headings there for the CSS and the JavaScript side. So for here, I'm actually going to put hash CSS files, and here I'm going to put JavaScript files. Save. Get to the bottom and I'm gonna put back that underscore, I mean the horizontal rule. And the same for here as well. And now should be able to move on. Let's have a quick look. All happy with that. Now I need to move on to init.php. Okay, really don't need to mention much in here. For starters, again, I'm just gonna say to initialize it, because at the end of the day, the user shouldn't really, unless they're trying to upgrade the framework. If they're just using it, they don't need to be accessing this file. So I'm just gonna, it's gonna be a very simple explanation. And I believe I had some sort of warning in one of the other ones, like do not change. Okay, I can't find it. I'm just going to put it in here saying this file is used to set up the framework. There is no need to modify any code within here to use the framework. Libs to include, so this one. So this was how should I explain this part? What was the... Looking at it again, because I remember debating with should I keep the local libs in here or not. Is it defunct or not? No, it's not defunct. Yeah, it's not defunct because you have a more custom way of accessing it. So if you want something else in the source there, so if you for some reason wasn't a JavaScript or wasn't a .css, or if I know in some, like if I go to miscellaneous built-in libs, like some of them have extra sort of data properties, like the integrity of it and like cross origin, that this would allow you to do that for internal files. Obviously external files, you should be loading them the way they recommend, like they'll give you some sort of code to put in there, whether it's a JavaScript or a CSS file. But for internal stuff, you might want to do something like that, and as a result you can do that. So the files to include really probably needs to be named better, but I'll get onto that later date. This really is just like a simple way of you doing it, and the libs to include is a more sort of advanced way of doing it. And the reason we're saying libraries, chances are you probably can get away with just doing this for your own files, but for certain libraries, if for example you downloaded the latest Bootstrap version and it wasn't in the built-in libraries and you didn't want to put it in here, you wanted to include it in your own source code, that would essentially be, well, a local file. That would essentially be, the equivalent to something like, this one, this one and this one right here. And this would allow you to include like a local file with, adding cross origin and integrity data properties as well. So that is the reason why they're there for. I just need to quickly pop to the toilet. Be back in a moment. Okay, now I am back. Let's just quickly check the time. Probably be about 25 minutes. I'm going to guess 20 minutes. Okay, good stuff, good stuff. So now to explain this. This file allows the inclusion of internal and external, internally and externally hosted libraries such as Bootstrap. Do love Bootstrap. Actually, I'm gonna put jQuery. I think more people will know jQuery than they will know Bootstrap, and for that reason, I think that's probably a better one to include. Chances are, if you're into any sort of web development, you probably know what Bootstrap is by now. But if you don't, jQuery is probably one of the most famous ones. But jQuery is JavaScript. Actually, I should put such as Bootstrap. That's JavaScript and CSS. This file allows the inclusion of internally and externally hosted CSS and JavaScript libraries such as Bootstrap. And also, where would they be? They would be accessed via the public folder, I believe. So if we go to elements, header. So it's first of all, it's any libs that we've got built in. So it's this stuff. Then it says any CDN links. Then it's any local libs. Then it's any internal files. I've done it that way. It's just so I believe that, you know, our internal files would probably should take precedence. So that should be the last code, because obviously, you know, it's cascading style sheets. That should be the last code it gets in case, let's say, you're overwriting some of the styling in Bootstrap for whatever reason. You don't want your styling to be overwritten by, obviously, the Bootstrap styling. So that would probably be a lib built in, or maybe a CDN lib, or maybe even a local lib if you've downloaded that. So, yeah. Okay. That's all good. Yeah, it would be in the public folder. The reason you would want to use this file instead of the files to include .php for internal files is that it allows more flexibility because allows more flexibility, which you'll see, you know, in a bit. More flexibility for information such as element. What's it called? Like, what's the specific name? Element HTML element attributes. That's the one, not properties. Properties just didn't like sound right. So such as element attributes like cross origin, such as element attributes like integrity, for example. Now I'm obviously going to give a description of what like all of this is. I'm gonna say this file also includes built-in libraries which can easily be enabled. Okay, so I'll explain this. So there should be, first of all, I'll have a section for CSS files to include an internal CSS library, add it to the following code. I'm going to say to include an external CSS library, add it to the following code. If you wanted to add the following file, and I could get one from here, like obviously I'm messing around with CSS. Actually, I want something that has the extra element attributes. If you wanted to add the following Bootstrap CSS file, the above code will look like this. So if I go to libs to include, so I would whack this in. How is it done? I can't quite remember. I honestly can't remember. Obviously it must be as libraries, so it must be as a string, so it must be like this. Obviously it wouldn't be in there, it would be in here. And if you get this and whack this over here. Okay, that's all good. Now we need to explain the external library one, the internal library one. So I'm actually going to just copy and paste that into Sublime. It's just got more room in Sublime. And I can mark that as Markdown. So I'll get a bit of highlighting in there to include an external CSS library. And now what I'm going to do is whack in a horizontal rule, copy and paste this, to include an internal CSS library added to the following, and that is local. If you wanted to add the following Bootstrap CSS file, so imagine if it was in here like so, you would just do something like so. Following Bootstrap CSS file. Okay, that looks all good now. And now I need to do something similar for the JavaScript stuff. So horizontal rule. And now, first of all, I need to do titles for JavaScript files. Need to copy and paste this. If you want to include an external JavaScript library, add it to the following code. If you wanted to add the following file, Bootstrap CSS file, that don't make sense at all. It should be the following Bootstrap CSS file, the following Bootstrap CSS file, following Bootstrap JavaScript file, if I go to built-in libs and get a JavaScript file like this one, for example, it's got all that good cross-origin stuff. Whack it here. The above code will look like this, and that is it. So now you can copy and paste this for the internal one. So internal, to include an internal JavaScript library file, add it to the local one, following JavaScript file, we'll just do something like this, and something like this. JS, JavaScript, I do not know why the hell that is there like that for. I know why, because of all that copying and pasting that I did. Okay, that's all good now. That should be all good. I'm just going to copy and paste that into, because I haven't explained this yet, but I will in a moment. Save page. If I go to libs to include. Okay, that's good. The only one thing I need to explain now is the built-in libraries. This framework has several built-in libraries which may be hosted locally or externally via a CDN. These can be enabled very easily at any time. Below is an example of the array that contains all the libraries at the moment to enable. An example of the array of built-in libraries that can be enabled. So the same code example, I'm going to whack that as 0. To enable a library, simply change the 0 next to it to a 1. For example, if you wanted to enable w3.css, the above code will now look like this. So copy and paste that. And copy that into here. So edit, save page. This framework has several built-in. Why the hell did it look like that? Built-in like that really should be built-in libraries. So edit that. That does not look very nice at all. So save page. Built-in library. Yup, looks all good. I'm not going to explain that. You don't need to, mess around with that. Now it's just explain miscellaneous. This folder contains the following files, and I will do this like a list. So asterisk space built-in. So I only got one at the moment, but that might change in the future. I'm sure it will. built-in.in_libs.php. This is a selection. This is all the files that we built in libraries from, what was that file called? From the libs to include.php, from the libs to include.php file requires. There is no need to modify this unless you are adding a new built-in library. Save and go to miscellaneous. All looking good. I probably could do with making that a bit like bold potentially. Yeah, let's quickly do that. Edit. We should do that as a H3. Once I keep it consistent, but again, I'm not going to put much text in here. It's going to be this. All good. And yep. So now that I've done the core folder, explain the DB backups folder, really there isn't much to it, but I'll explain it. So if I go back to overview, there's one for DB backups. I need to update that as well because need the classes and the core to refer to classes and core. So obviously that will take you to the app folder page. So edit that. It's going to be a simple ahref. I'm actually going to open up the wiki in a separate page as well, so I can just copy and paste this URL, copy link address. So classes ahref equals, and now need to do the same for core. Copy link address, ahref, and now save the page. Okay, so now need to create. Yeah, I'm actually just gonna edit this and don't need to put any more information about it than that. But at the end of the day, what's to explain, that is it. To store their own sites. Apart from that, save it. One second, this guy is messy that I need to quickly check. So elements, what's in? Yeah, we'll get elements done today. I'm hoping to get elements done today as well. So create a new page called overview : elements folder. Overview : elements folder, and what I'm actually going to do is go to classes folder, app folder, edit that, try and keep the structure the same. So now I'm literally just going to get rid of all of that, keep it like this. So contents of elements folder is going to be footer.php. I'll sort out this href stuff in a bit. Header.php, header.php, subfolder, and within that you have, really should be pretty simple. That should be it then. Okay, so we need 3 sections and remove the IDs. And the first one is obviously going to be footer.php. The next one is going to be header.php. And then the next one is going to be subfolder. Still got some green tea left. No. It's dry as the Sahara Desert. Have to go back to the good old water. So save that. See what the time's like. 44 minutes. Probably just get this elements folder done, and that'll probably be it for today. Obviously this doesn't do anything at the moment. The URL for that is footer.php, header.php, and sub-folder. So sub-folder, head. Okay, I got it. So this is going to be header.php, footer.php, sub-folder, okie dokie. Yeah, now just to simply explain them, which shouldn't be too difficult really. It's like the footer and the header.php are just elements that are used on every single page, and obviously I'm not going to explain line by line in here what to do. All I will probably say is any current code don't remove, but just add your extra header and footer code, yeah, that's probably the best thing. This file is used as the footer element, footer code for every page/view. Add any code in addition to the existing framework code for your footer inside it. Same for the header. That's all it really needs to be explained. This file uses the header code for every page view. Add any code in addition to the existing framework code for your header inside it. And add subfolder. Subfolder has a couple of things: favicon and JavaScript file. So the favicon, so this file contains the following. So hash favicon.php. This file provides an easy way of implementing a cross-platform favicon which resides inside of its public IMG favicons. I'm going to actually say the files of which reside inside of public /img/favicons. And apart from that, that should be all good. I'm just put that in here, though it's in here just so you know, to generate a set of cross-platform favicons. Use the following link. Put ahref around it. Ahref equals and now just need to use a subfolder. So I mean the JavaScript folder. And obviously that needs to be like so. There's gonna be two sections in here. First is starter body and then the ender body. So ender body.js, end underscore of body.js. This file is used to include any JavaScript code at the end of your body before the closing body tag. This is sometimes a requirement / recommendation for external libraries. This file provides an easy way of adding it without I'm trying to say without sort of clustering up your your footer or your header file, without not overwhelming. What's the sort of word or words I'm looking for? Easy way of adding it without overloading the amount of content inside the footer.php element file. And essentially the startup body.js is the same. Startup body.js. This file you split any JavaScript code at the start of your body after the opening body tag. This is something the requirement recommendation for external libraries. This file provides an easy way of adding it without overloading the amount of content inside the footer in the header.php file. I haven't come across a library or framework that asks you to do that for CSS. If there is one that you know about, let me know and I'll look into it and I'll create a separate file for end of body.css and start of body.css. But I haven't come across it. Come across it for JS quite a few times. Now Google Analytics recommend it. Plus also if you want to customize it yourself. So if you want certain code to be executed at the end, which is less of a priority, especially when it's framework related, even analytics related. Or if you just not just about priority, if you want it all to be loaded, then track the analytics instead of if you're constantly refreshing. You don't want that to necessarily come up as like 10 different sort of requests. You want the page to be loaded. This provides an easy way without cluttering your header and your footer element files. But if there is a CSS library out there that requires it, then let me know and I will take a look. Say page. Make sure all of this is working, and boom. Put a line between these two. Nah, fine. Okay, what sort of time we're looking? We've got 52 minutes. What is after this? We got libs. Honestly, might as well do this. This won't take long as well. So libs. I'm gonna add a new page. And this is going to be overview, libs, folder, again just copy and paste this into here, get rid of everything from below down here, and there's only 3 folders in this, so Google Recapture, hybrid auth and PHP Mailer. I could just say this is external libraries that the framework uses in its classes, and that's it. But I'm just gonna have like 1-2 lines about what this is or what it uses, maybe a link to the appropriate website. I think good to reference it and also explain it a bit more. So not just about referencing, in case they want more information about it, they can easily get a link instead of having to Google it. And also they can get a link to the version that I've used, because maybe they download this 2 months after a certain release and there's a new version out of Google Recapture, but they access that and it's hard to find the old Recapture documentation and they try and use code from there, it's not working. You don't want that shit. So I'm just gonna sort that stuff out. So it's Google Recapture, Google Recapture. Next is hybrid auth. I'm really enjoying doing these videos, but I can't wait to finish this video because I'm gonna make some food. I'm going to be making mashed potato and fish fingers. Can't wait for that. Gonna be making quite a lot of it as well. Gonna watch Sense8 the Christmas special. Had to look, it's 2 hours. It's like so long. I was hoping it would be like an hour. Obviously the Netflix hour stuff is usually about 15 minutes or an hour, but this is just a tad over 2 hours. Once I've had lunch, I'm gonna get my laptop and just in front of the TV just do some work that I can do while I'm watching TV as well, just to pass the time by, because it's one of those like a lot of shows nowadays though I would love to watch them and concentrate on them. Sense8 definitely isn't one of them, but though there are a lot that I do watch, I do it while I'm doing other stuff because I want to get as much work done as possible. So I do it while I'm even checking my news feed like on Feedly, while I'm checking emails, while I'm doing other stuff. The very stuff that I can be doing while I'm watching those TV shows, and they're almost like filler shows, so they're just there just to almost fill the time between, you know, me having to do something or me wanting to do something. That's just not very taxing. So let's sort this out. And hybrid auth, PHP mailer, and this should just be I remember this. It's not this part that I need to change. It's this part here. So this needs to be Google Recapture, all lowercase. G to get rid of that and get rid of the capture and replace it with lowercase. Hybrid auth is okay, and PHP mailer just needs to change the PHP and M to lowercase. Okay. This library. Okay, first of all, I'm going to explain what the app folder is. This folder contains all the libraries that are hosted internally that the framework requires in the back end. Usually any required libraries are included locally, and this is just simply because, you know, URLs might change, they might get, you know, the actual code might still work, but the actual, for some reason, access to a CDN might go down. Whereas, you know, when you're including it via, you know, like the Bootstrap toggle, that's like an optional thing. That's not, you know, rooted into the framework. Where you would use that would be on your own code. So the way you activate it is up to you. Whereas, you know, Google Recapture is within the classes of the framework. You shouldn't have to update that if you're just a developer creating a website using that framework. Hybrid auth is used within the social login aspect. You shouldn't have to update that if there's shit going wrong, because you can't access these files, even if the files could work. Same with PHP Mailer. Realistically, they should still be accessible if they're on a CDN, but just in case, good to have them locally, and they're not big files anyway. Google Recapture, I think Hybrid Auth is one of the biggest ones, simply because of all of the providers it, you know, provides. I'm pretty positive that most of the size from this framework is due to hybrid auth. Let me have a quick look at that. I just want to confirm if that is the case. So if we go to application, XAMPP, and go to PHP Web Framework. So the actual entire framework like folder is taking a little while to calculate size. It's worrying because pretty sure the framework wasn't very big at all. I'll let that do that, and I'll finish this off. This library is used to included locally with the framework. This library is used to authenticate users to prevent bots from accessing the site and flooding it with traffic. Though we're using it in the login system, it can be used anywhere. see, you wouldn't like directly interact with Recapture or Hybrid or PHP Mailer. You interact with our own classes, which is a layer on top of PHP Mailer. It's like a simple method for you to use to get done. Hybrid off, that's built into the user system, and then the Google Recapture, again, that's the separate Recapture file class to handle this. This library is used to provide social login functionality within the existing user system. This library is used to provide a better mailing service system, because like the built-in PHP mailing, there's sometimes, like quite often, it can be picked up by stuff like Hotmail or Gmail, and not especially Hotmail, and you'll read it as junk, or it just won't send properly. With PHP Mail is just a better system, and because it's already integrated, you would essentially just call a method called, I think it's just like mail. So if I go to email, literally, yeah, you just have an email class, you have a send, it has a error sort of class with it, like object with it. It extends that class, I should say, so you can see what errors are happening. But it's simple. You just call one send method, like an array of people you're sending it to. So if you're sending it to multiple people, that's great for like news lists or sending to all users. If it's coming from multiple people, and if there's a multiple people in the reply to, then a subject, body, if it's is a template, and any variables. The variables are used in the template. So if it is a template, it would go to, if it's template, tries to find the template file. So is template false, you wouldn't set this to true. You set this to the actual location of the template. That's how it works, I believe. No, the body, sorry. If this is true, the body would be essentially the template file name, which would be stored in templates right here, which just provides an easy way of creating emails without having them in your view. You could have a view that's only like 100 lines of code or 50 lines of code, but your email could be like 500 lines of code. Just keep it separate. You could use that in several different locations as well and update it accordingly. So that's what the email service is for, provided better email mailing system. That's fine, because again, not going to explain the functionality of the email class here, because we've got a separate folder for classes, and that's what that will be explained. This will just explain the libs folder. So libs is done. That's done for today. Public I will get done next time, and I'll get templates definitely done, and then we can start on classes even next time or the time after. So we're almost there on classes, which is the meat of it, which is where the main thing that I've wanted to document. So this is 1.9 megabyte. Oh, I think it took a while. Wasn't that many files? But if I were to go to here and get info on the libraries, for example, that's 1.5 meg. So the actual our stuff is only 0.4 meg. And if I go to public and like the images folder, so favicons, the favicon is almost 0.2 megabytes. So almost like the framework really is just a tad over 0.2, I think like 0.23, 0.24 megabytes. And if I go on to elements, libs, Google, hybrid auth, get info, that is 1.1 meg. That is the majority of the file size of our framework is for hybrid auth. So if you wanted to trim down the framework even more, it's already small as it is, but if you wanted to, you could go into hybrid auth. You could even remove hybrid auth if you wanted to. I'll have to have a look at the sort of how that would work. Like if you were to just remove this folder, would there be problems even if you're not using the social login? I don't think there should be, but that's something I'm gonna have to test. I'll put it on there. So I'm gonna add a card, test if libraries can easily be removed. And that's probably the next thing I'm going to do after these things are done. I'll whack this back here. Members, it's me. Labels, I'll put that as a red. I think that's a pretty high priority one. Because again, like if you don't want hybrid auth in your website at all, the actual code to interact with hybrid auth doesn't take that much space up. But like all these libraries do, if you want to trim it, take that off. If you don't even want mailing system, take that off. If you don't want Recapture, take that off. And there you go. You then have a framework that is very trim, like less than half a megabyte. So we want to make sure that you can easily remove these, and we'll be checking that out once the documentation is done. So that's it for day 21. I think it's part 4 of the documentation. And yeah, that is it really. If you have any questions, feel free to comment, feel free to contact us via Twitter, Facebook, Google+, email at support@sonarsystem.co.uk, put a question on sonarlearning.co.uk, and yeah, feel free to contribute any code, any ideas, any notes, any stuff into the documentation, because this is a PHP, or this is a web framework by the community for the community, and yeah, it's as simple as that. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in day 22.